Hello and welcome to our From the Frontlines here at Guidelines. This is the first program in our From the Frontlines series, and we are so excited that you're joining us here in our new Guidelines home. We've recently moved into this new home, and we're looking forward to having many more events like this, and we're very excited through our From the Frontlines series to be able to introduce you to some of the men and women, the incredible people of faith that we work with here at Guidelines. As you know, we work with partners all around the world who almost all are facing very difficult situations. They're laboring under actually great duress because the gospel is not without opposition, as we know. Perhaps you have been supporting us and the work of some of our partners, so this is just an incredible treat to introduce you to one of them and family member as well tonight. So I would like to welcome you and introduce you to Tawny and Jimmy from Radio Emmanuel, Albania.
Thank you, Bonnie. We're honored.
Welcome. We are so glad that you're
sunny
here.
California.
Yes.
It's the nicest weather we've been so far.
That's right. They've been totally enjoying the weather for the last day or so that they've been
We're
here.
blessed to be here.
So imagine growing up in a country where owning a Bible was illegal and faith had to be hidden. This was the reality for our special guest from Albania, who grew up under the harsh grip of communism. Today, as Tawny boldly shares the gospel through Radio Emmanuel, he faces intense opposition from those who seek to silence his message. So I'm welcoming Tawny and his son Jimmy, and this is really a story of 3 generations, as we're going to hear. I won't give it away, but Jimmy is the 3rd generation of his family to be involved in the ministry of Radio Emmanuel. So welcome. I'd like you to see some of the rest of the family. I think we've got some pictures here. This is Tawny and his wife Efti, and this is in front of the Radio Emmanuel beautiful studio building. And some of our team was so privileged to get to go and visit them and be with them earlier last year. So this is the studio building, and there's one family member who we should not leave out. This is Anya, Jimmy's little sister, who he's maybe kind of glad to be away from for a while.
Well, she's the spoiled one, so she's more happy than me.
And I think we do have a shot of our Guidelines team in the studios. Here we are visiting. You can see, of course, Tawny, and you can see Jimmy and Efti. And this is Kayla, who is one of the broadcasters at Radio Emmanuel. And then Brandon Neal, our Director of Media Services, who works with us remote from Virginia. So we had an incredible time visiting them, but more importantly, coming to really understand the conditions under which you labor and what life really is like for you in your attempt to share the gospel with your people in your heart language. I also had let me explain our relationship with Radio Emmanuel. So you may know that Guidelines devotionals are heard around the world in now over 32 languages. We don't do this ourselves. We do this all through partnership. And we're not here to have our devotionals go all over the world. We're really here to advocate for and to partner with brothers and sisters in Christ like Tawny, who are trying to reach their people in their own language, in their own country. And so Radio Emmanuel has been broadcasting our Guidelines devotionals for
9 years.
9 years now.
10 years almost.
We are just so grateful for that partnership, and they've started to do some new media, which Jimmy has been involved in. We'll learn about that. Video, reels, things like that. We're excited to have some of those new partnerships taking place as well. So when I visited Radio Emmanuel this last fall, it was really great to meet everyone in person, and actually Radio Emmanuel is one of the best partners that we have. They do such an incredible job of sending us listener stories, of really letting us kind of have a little glimpse into how the devotionals are really changing people's lives. That's really encouraging to our whole team. And I've always loved the videos that they share. They're beautiful videos. Well, I was shocked to find out these videos are being made by Jimmy. 16 years old. Well, today, actually, he just turned 17. Happy birthday, Jimmy.
Thank you.
but really beautiful videos. And so I asked Jimmy, I said, hey, I knew he was going to be coming to visit, could you create a video that shares a day in the life of Radio Emmanuel? And that's exactly what you did.
Yes, I hope we'll be able through this video to maybe communicate or to show how a normal day in the radio looks like, how we treat each other and our little community.
All right, so go ahead and roll that now. Here we go.
Hello guys, this is the official tour of our offices here in Albania. Enjoy. This man is my grandfather and the visionary mind behind it all. His name was Jimmy Barra, and he was one of the first converts to Christianity after the dark and long communist regime collapsed in Albania. He came from a Muslim family, but by reading a Bible given to him by a missionary, he began his journey in faith. In the early 90s, he founded a church in the midst of an ex-atheistic country now facing a civil crisis. Later on, in 2002, he decided to start a radio ministry. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2003, but his passionate voice for the Lord still echoes through the radio waves even now. His mission went on through his son, my father.
So we're gonna start off with the one who coordinates it all. Hello.
Hey!
You're very familiar with this guy, I guess. So I want to ask you a question. You first started the radio ministry when you were very young, like 18 years old.
2 years older than you.
What would you say was your biggest challenge when you first started off with the ministry?
I guess it was my young age, but I loved what I did so much that I didn't feel it back then.
What would you say has been the impact of the radio through the years in the community?
The biggest impact the radio had was last year in 2024 in March when we received a license for a south area, which is the headquarters of the Bektashi community.
Okay, so we have all of the people working, and I'm gonna start off with a very new member of our team. He is Ervin, or otherwise known by Americans as Erwin. Ervin, ke pak problem që të vish herët në mëngjes, e gjem pak të bezdishme?
Jo, ma të vish herët në mëngjes të shumë.
On the other side of the room we have our accountant, Ilda. So she's been with us. Say hello, Ilda.
Hello.
She's been with us since the very beginning as a speaker 20 years ago, and now she's our accountant. Ilda, çfarë të pëlqen më shumë, ti je financiere apo ti je speakere në radio?
Të dyja më pëlqejnë.
Right now I'm going to introduce you to someone really special. She is my first and best colleague. She's Kela. Kela, si je?
Mirë Gjimi.
Shiko, tani unë vetëm një pyetje kam për ty.
Thuaj.
Sipas teje, cila është pjesa më e bukur e të punuarit në radio?
Unë e pëlqej radio në tërësi, në gjithçka që ajo ofron, por pjesa më e bukur është të qenit në një program live, çdo ditë sikurse unë jam në Muzik Plus, edhe mbi të gjitha duhet veçoj pjesën kur të ftuarit janë pjesë e programit. Është me të vërtetë shumë kënaqësi të kem her pas here të ftuar të ndryshëm, të cilët ndajnë më shumë nga vetja nëpërmjet këtij programi. Pra, të qenit live është fantastike.
Now, there is an even more special and important person. She's the big boss, my boss. As you can see. Do filmoj. Po. My question to you would be, you've told me a little bit about your story. So you first started in the radio at the beginning of it all, like
when I was 18 years old.
Since we all know that our whole family is involved in the radio work, what?
Repeat the question again.
Okay.
Is it a challenge to work with my family?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it is a challenge, but we as a family think about our ministry and our work even when we are at home. But the hardest thing was to discipline you and to give you advice. You have been the most difficult person so far.
Oh, thank you. That was very nice of you.
Just leave me. You can leave now.
Well, now it's time to put a face to the voice. I hope you liked this video, although not all of our team members were present here today. I think this was good enough. And I really hope that you guys were able to see how a normal day in the radio looks like. what the radio means for us all and maybe see things through our eyes. We love you guys so much and God bless.
Very nice. Thank you, Jimmy. So how did you get interested in the visual arts? Your dad is a radio man.
Well, it all started in the radio, of course. I was brought up in an environment around the cables, around the computers, the microphones. And when I was very little, I would see these grown-ups editing the audio waves and doing live shows, and I adored them and looked at them with such awe. And I thought to myself as a little boy, I would like to one day be useful to this radio, or to one day do my part and bring something to the table. So a few years later, when I was 11, 12 years old, I heard my mom saying that we need to pay more attention to our videos, or we need to improve them a little. And she wasn't referring to me in any kind of way or telling me that maybe I should learn, but I kind of felt a responsibility that maybe this was my opportunity to do something useful in the radio, or maybe this was my opportunity to improve something. So I saw some tutorials, I saw some videos, I downloaded an editing software, made some clips from YouTube videos, and created a video with the theme, "Why should we believe in Jesus?"
And the rest is history.
And the rest is history.
So Jimmy, you're here to come with your father to visit Guidelines and go to the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, but you're also here for a special reason. You're going to be visiting Biola University.
Yes. Well, I see Biola as my window to a world where I can really have access to information, to tools, to means, where I can deepen my knowledge in the video and media arts industry, but where I can also have an effect and an impact to my community back home in Albania. I can have access to tools that can make me improve, deepen my knowledge, and it's also a window to a world where I can do the thing I love so much, and the thing that represents me, which are my videos, my way of communicating, and telling my story.
Well, we're going to be praying with you for God's guidance and direction in that area. We'd love to see you do that. All right, Tawny, it's wonderful to get to talk with you today. So the video kind of hinted a little bit about how you came to take over the radio ministry for your father. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I was on my way to going to university for biology or paramedic, because I loved it. My wife was already in school for taking for an English teacher, and we were planning our living in our small world, in our small corner, and raising our kids and having a very introverted life in our community. But I was also helping my dad doing editing. Back then I was only the tech guy that was doing the with school-edited programs that were available back then. And then my father died suddenly in the United States in 2003. He was 48 years old. And the radio, everything that he built and he loved so much, was without his father, if I could say so. And I felt this call that was mainly initiated because of the love of my father. I loved my dad so much, and he was my hero. He was one of the first preachers who came out from 1993, where we just came out of communism, and that was a very, very hard thing to do, because people looked at us as villains, as spies, as we had all kinds of things. And for the love I had for him, I turned and I would say took over, but I managed it for a moment, so because I would hate to see everything my father built fall apart.
And you had to drop out of college
and I had to give up that dream. I had to give up the dream of living the life that I thought back then I was going to live. And because of the love I had for him, I had to start working, and I was 19 years old. I was just 2 years older than my son, who is here, and I can't imagine how would have felt, how my partners back then felt about me, and it was a struggle. And I felt fine back then, but only now I see that it wasn't me, it was God carrying me step by step.
Jimmy's video mentioned that your father had been a Muslim, or from a Muslim background, and then communism took over Albania, and that was the most rigidly communist country of the entire Soviet Union, right? In fact, you were telling us that you were born under communism and that your name reflects the time in history that you were born.
Well, Albania is one of the first countries in 1967 who banned religion. And we're part of the Eastern Bloc and part of the communist countries, but none of them did that, and we were the only ones. And it just didn't happen in one day. That was a process that started from 1945 with movie propagandas and with censorship stuff that sometimes they try to do it now in 2024 again. And it ended up with a complete ban. And I'm one of those kids who were born between that time in the 80s who were not allowed to have religious names, so my name doesn't mean anything in any religion, either Muslim or Christian or anything else. But it created a vacuum for our people. It created, because imagine you live in the world where having a Bible can take you to jail for 25 years, where preaching can have you executed, not only you, but exile all of your family. Mm-hmm. So if you did something, that you can almost call that selfish, because your wife, your kids, your father and mother, your first cousins would be in exile,
would all
suffer because of what you did. So.
And you said that your dad, after communism fell, your dad came to know Christ through a missionary.
My father was a painter during the communist era. He wasn't a painter, he was setting up scenes for communist propaganda. So they would put scenes of a fabric or that, and they would do a theater with the communist theme, and he was the one who would build the scenes. And when communism failed, he was selling paintings in the street. And someone came to him, gave him a Bible, and said, if you proclaim the name of Jesus, you will live forever. And that's it. That was a seed that was planted in his heart. And he went home and he started reading the Bible, because you have to be in his shoes. My father was born in a deep communism where they had to study Marx. And I don't know, Marx is a known, Karl Marx is a known philosopher that started communism. He had to study that for his high school time, and back then, if you had a bad grade at Marxism, you were up for some difficult time in your life, so you really had to study that.
So you said that whole generation was called the silent generation because they were always afraid to speak.
My mother, to this day, if she has a pain anywhere, she doesn't tell.
But your dad did not remain silent after he encountered
My
Jesus.
father did not remain silent because of that seed that was planted in his heart, and he started reading the Bible, and then other people came. And if this missionary was the one who put the seed, there were other people who saw what he.
So we don't have time for all the details, but obviously God called him to begin a radio ministry, and he began that in a very simple way, right? Just with one station in your city.
He began that first building a studio in my room, where I was staying.
In your room.
He took me out, and that was 1998. And in 1997 we had the pyramid scheme, Ponzi scheme, that collapsed, and we had a civil war where people started to riot, trying to get their money back. It was a complete chaos, and we just came out of that, and he was wanting to build a radio, and we all thought he was suffering post-traumatic stress, or he was losing his mind, to put it directly. But then in 2001 we got the license. and we put the first antenna in the city that was broadcasting only in our city that we live in. That was about 70,000 people back then, and here we were in '98, and here we are in 2001, and God made it happen. So it's God doesn't work the way we think He does. So.
And just as your father and mother suffered under the oppression of communism, there's a new form of oppression that is gripping Albania today and is opposing the gospel. So because you are now facing opposition from those who would like to silence you, who would like to shut down all Christian radio in the country and not allow the gospel to go out, what is your why? What keeps you going when you are under such opposition?
Well, I would like to quote a verse from the Bible. Everything. Luke 6:22. Blessed are you when your people hate you, when they exclude you, when they insult you, and reject you, name as evil because of the Son of Man.
You've experienced some of that.
I've experienced that time over and over again. That of course you develop a thick skin. And I'm not saying to anybody that they should be looking for persecution or trouble, because I don't look for that. It just comes to me. And I see it like this. Every time we try to do something big, there is always an opposition to that. And every time there is something going on spiritually, of course, there is something that will oppose that. So, in a way, I see that it's working. And it took us 10 years when we started the radio to build a reputation for what we were trying to do, because, sorry for repeating this, but because of the communist propaganda, we're always seen as bad people. We're always seen as people who are trying to manipulate. We're trying to do anything else but do good. And all our intention is trying to save people.
So you're maligned by elements of society. What is the biggest difficulty right now for Radio Emmanuel?
The biggest difficulty right now is a young generation that is coming up that they want to be agnostic. They want to bring atheism. That it was given.
Coming back to atheism.
It was given to us by restrictions. Now there is a new generation that wants to take it as free people, and it's a pity that young people don't believe in anything, because that's I mean, what we fight it for so many years, we have to fight now again to bring this generation back to Christ and throw this small seed that was planted in my father. It doesn't take a lot. People think.
So why are you still using radio?
We still use radio, or you have a Galcom radio?
I have little solar powered radios that you.
And these are not pointy, because they used to throw them at us when they were. These radios are a great tool, and we have faced opposition with given radios. But for some people, and especially in the rural areas, it has been the seed that was planted in their heart, and it works. Because, let's say a farmer will take that and he stays 10 or 12 hours or 16 hours in the field or guiding the sheep or the cows, and he has nothing to do. So he listens to the radio. Well, maybe some will not be a fertile land in his heart, but maybe one will take the message and will go home, and a seed is planted now. And then other people will follow up, because we work with churches in the community to do follow-ups with
right.
people.
You're very close with the churches throughout the
We work through that.
Yeah, so this is one of the tools that you use that
we have given out
these to the churches.
Yep. We've given out 10,000 of those.
10,000 of these.
And we made sure that we gave them to one person per family to make it even bigger. Let's say a family of 6 means 60,000. to make the impact as big as possible. So
So many people will listen to one radio.
many people will listen to one radio, and we have the biggest impact in the rural areas. And because this is how it is, secular station or any station, it's not interesting in rural areas because they don't pay for anything, they don't buy advertisement, they're very poor people, but these are the people that in a way we need to give them the gospel, because we were the people who were poor and unseen, and people like you came and gave us the gospel. So it's a way for us to give back what it was given to us from other missionaries who came in the early 90s. So we have a heart for these people, and we've given more than 10,000 radios already, and we see an impact. We see a woman that I'm not gonna lives in a rural area, that she is in a strict Muslim family, and she is not allowed to go to any, but she writes at our staff, and we've been doing a follow-up. It's people like that that encourages us to go on.
And
it's,
Jesus went after the one, and you go after the one very often as well through the radio. So it's so very effective in the poorer areas, in the rural areas. What about in your city that you're in? How are you reaching people in your city?
It's mainly, we try to use any tool possible to reach generations, to reach communities, to reach people who live in different areas, and that's where Jimmy comes in, where with Reels, with Facebook, with online radio for the new generation, with not podcasts, but internet radio that is now everywhere.
Yeah, Jimmy, how do you see the radio, whether it's online or it's on social media, or whether it's a traditional radio? How do you see that reaching your generation?
Well, I was actually asked this question by my teacher in Albania, and she told me, is the radio gonna die, or do you think that people still listen to the radio? And my answer was, I think the radio is the most genuine form of communication, because we can see a face through radio. We can be manipulated by looks. You only hear what the person wants to say, and you judge him or you like him by what he says, by the content of his heart, by his intellect, by the things that he has to say and want to transmit. So I think that the radio will live on because it's a place where people can find sincerity, people can find a genuine soul, and people can judge someone, or maybe listen to his intellect, listen to what he really has to say, and know someone better than through looks.
So Jimmy, you've been watching your parents as they've been working in the ministry and under a lot of pressure at certain times, under a lot of persecution. What have you seen in their lives?
Well, I've seen firsthand because my mom mentioned in the video that we really take our work home. It's not that we work 8 to 4 like you have 9 to 5. It's not like we leave work there. We also take it home with us. And I've seen that my father suffers a little bit from anxiety, and because it's also his father's legacy, and it's also my dad's legacy, and it's something that has went through generations and has been our cause and our meaning in life. I think that when you find that there's a possibility that might be shaken, you experience it in a very bad way. So we've been through a dark tunnel, but there was light at the end, thankfully.
And you have had some reprieve. We have had some answers to prayer as we've been praying for you in the last few months.
We've been praying, and just like Moses when he prayed and he was holding his hands, and Aaron had to step in and keep his
hold each other
out. That's what we did together through these 6 months. That was a real psychological battle. It was a pressure of heart and also a big pressure of mind. When your censorship gets you to a position where they ask you that everything that you're doing is wrong, that is a poison for the community staff, that was used during the communist time, and now it's 2025.
It's got to be hard to see that
it's gotta
coming
be
back
hard to
again
see that
and again.
coming.
Well, we're going to ask you in just a minute how to pray for you, but I just want to let everyone know here in our studio audience, we're going to be taking your questions in a few minutes. And if you are watching this online, either live or afterward, well, if you're watching it live, you can put a question right now in the chat box. We'll be monitoring that, but love to have any questions. Before we go to questions, if we have any, how can we pray for you? How can we, all the way in America, sitting here in our complete freedom with our choice of churches and Bible studies and music and Bible schools and all the resources we have, how can we pray for you? How can we support you as brothers and sisters in Christ?
Well, the first prayer that I want to ask is, we had a very hard 5 months, as you know, and we thought we were going to lose everything, and everything was told us by people that are authorities that this shouldn't go on, and it stopped, and things changed, and things took a completely different turn, and that I can put any sense to it except that this is not me, this is not my son, it's not even my dad, it's God who wants to do that. So we want to take that time that we were given from God as a peaceful time to spread as many seeds as we can, to reach with the gospel as many people as we can in all kinds of forms, through the radio, through multimedia, through giving out Galcom radios. And the first prayer that I want to ask is to be the radio manual to be as much effective as possible for this time that we're given, this time of peace, to use this, just like the 7 years of Joseph, to use this time to be as plentiful as possible, because we never know what's coming up next.
It reminds me of that verse, work, for the night is coming. You know that night is coming. You know that persecution will double back on you.
In our case, we literally know it, but the biggest prayer for us is to reach as many, and if we can put another antenna, we will pray to do that, and we can put 2, and we can put 3, and if we can put as much programming as we can, try to do the most of we can for Jesus and for the salvation.
I hear a sense of urgency in your voice.
I do, because exactly what you said is the night is coming. It's a peaceful time, but we shouldn't be asleep because of that. So we should work even more and work even harder to spread the seed, and then let God do the job.
I'm going to ask a question. If any of you have a question, get ready. But in the video, I think you mentioned that you were so happy that in 2024 you were able to put a new tower near a Baktashi community. What is that? Can you share with us why that's significant?
Yeah, well, that is a Shia Muslim community that started from Iran or Iran, and they went to Turkey, and then they came to Albania, and they are the headquarters in Albania of all over the world.
Wow.
And where our antennas are, is right where their headquarters is. So
that might be why you're having a little opposition.
So when we talk about opposition, we're right in the middle of where the biggest heat is as we're speaking. So we want to reach these people because these people have been worshiping a different God that is their own right to do so. But we want to give them the opportunity to see what we believe. We're not saying anything wrong about anybody, but I want them to have the chance to hear the story of Jesus. I want them to have the chance to hear Dr. Saga's messages. I want them to have the chance to hear messages that come from the heart of the people who've been saved. So why not?
And there's a pastor and a church community right there in that community that you work with, right?
He's a pastor who is also facing a lot of opposition because of where he is, and we're there to be his tool, to be used by him in any way possible and help him, and not just me, you and all of us.
That's really beautiful. So we're here to help you. You're here to help that pastor. And it's just a beautiful circle of all of us working together. I love that picture. All right, do we have any questions?
We have a question online.
Online question.
So what was one of the most amazing stories of life transformation that you've seen through the ministry?
What was one of the most amazing stories of life transformation that you've seen?
I've seen, there are many stories. The most life transformation stories I've seen is, I see for listeners or for testimonies to come from the city where our main offices are, and instead they come from very remote area. For example, the latest one was a woman, as I shared, who lives in a very strict Muslim family and has no freedom to go to church. That's out of the question, or do anything else. And she actually found a way to communicate with us through Messenger. And we've been keeping a follow-up with her until one day she will break the bondage and she will come out and say, I'm a Christian and I want to be free to share my faith with everybody else. But that day is not yet.
This is a story that's in.
This is a story that is in progress as we're talking. And we have had people who wrote to us, and when we asked them where were they writing from, was prison or penitentiary. And they were there for 20 years or 25 years. I don't want to judge them because that's God, but they have the right to be saved as well. Who are we to deny them to them?
So sometimes it's a process, right? Of people.
It's a process of people, and what I'm amazed is that I think of a community, but that never happens. It always comes from a community that's very remote, that we don't even know where they are ourselves in the map. We don't even know ourselves where they are. And they have such a genuine response. And not only genuine, like I can see that they've never heard of anything about Jesus. They have no idea. It's not what you see here in the States, where people are actually grown to know a little bit about Christianity. That is their choice to be believers or not. We have people who have no idea, absolutely
So for many
zero.
listeners, this is the first time they've ever heard this story.
For many listeners, it's still, unfortunately, the first time they have heard the story of Jesus, unfortunately. So that's why in my prayer request, I'm asking to do as much as we can for the time that we have left, and that we are in peace to continue with the ministry.
I'll never forget this last fall when I was there and speaking at a women's event that we had. A woman came up and a man had broken into their family home and had killed her mother, had killed her fiance, and she had become suicidal. She had heard the message on Radio Manual, had come to transformative faith in Jesus, and now she was writing to the murderer in prison and sharing the gospel with him. And she asked us, could she have 50 radios to send to the prison? So Tony and I are working that out.
Yes, but when you hear this, you're literally amazed, because you don't think people like this are going to approach you and they're going to write to you because of how their life is so restricted. But God works in ways that it's
so it costs the listeners sometimes too, if they're listening, and then if their families are opposed to it, they find out then it causes persecution for them as well.
Yeah. Sometimes we have to save them and make sure that they won't be hurt, so we keep it all confidential.
Any other questions from our studio audience? Yes, right here.
We're all dear friends, and we all have two boys. We relate to you, but as a father, how would you like us to pray for Jimmy? And as a son, how would you like us to pray for your dad?
Well, as a father, I don't want to impose on my son what he's going to do with his life, but and I was sharing this with Bonnie, it's the radio and the ministry will go on even after my time, and even after me passing away, as we're all going to go to be with the Lord one day. And I want to make sure that there is a legacy, and not only the radio will go on or the ministry of evangelizing our community will go on, but it will improve and it will update to the next generation, and it will be so that the younger generation can listen to us and they can fit in with what we're doing. So the prayer that I have for my son is, of course, to be part of what we're doing and to bring the radio to the next level, as the technology is moving forward so fast that it's hard to catch on, but the younger generation is catching on pretty well, so they got it. So I need the continuity of what we're doing, because there are still people that needs to be saved in any generation and in any time.
What would you say, Jimmy?
Yes, of course. So in the next year, I'll go to college. So it's a very big step for me, but it will not only be an experience for me. My parents will also be affected. My mom, my dad, and it's a very difficult, or maybe a bit of a hard time for me transitioning, but it's a harder time for my parents. So I would like a prayer for so they both, not my dad, but also my mom, so they also go through it well and get used to it. And I would also pray for I know this is not realistic, but for maybe the persecution, or that there is a change of heart in the people, in the community. We've been working on that for more than 20 years now, but I would want to pray that my dad's work and maybe my work in the future will have even more of an impact in the community, in our land of heart in Albania.
Thank you for that question, Scott. Any other questions? Right here.
I have a question about your message getting out to the people, and you mentioned atheists, Muslim, and people who've never heard the gospel before. Do you find one of those three is more receptive, and your message is more effective to them, or is it all the same? Or
no, we are a tool used by God to spread His message to as many people as we can, and of course it's getting harder and harder because of the atheism or the agnosticism coming back from the grave that we tried to put it on 30 years ago, is resurrecting again. And it's getting harder and harder because God doesn't work by logic. If you try to convince someone that these are history facts, and he might even have stronger facts than you, but it's the Holy Spirit that does the job. So what we do is we plant a small seed, and then other people will follow up. It's not something, we're not selling a product and trying to convince people that if you buy our product, it's better than if you buy their product. We're trying to give them salvation. So it's harder, and is sometimes as hard as we think it is as simple as it can get. Because God doesn't work the way we think He works. He works His own way. So we think some people, these people should be saved because they're educated and they're intellectual and they should know better, but it doesn't work. There's people who have no education and who live very remotely and they want to know Christ more. So it's not the way we think it works.
Well, we would love you, if you have not already, all to join our prayer team so that you can hear the requests of Tawny and Radio Emmanuel going forward. And you can do that by going to guidelines.org/prayer and signing up for that prayer team. If you have additional questions, feel free to send them to info@guidelines.org. We'll be happy to forward them on to Tawny, and would just thank you guys so much for coming and being with us.
It's an honor.
Well, it's an honor to co-labor with you in the gospel. So on behalf of everyone at Guidelines, I'd like to say thank you for joining us. And I'd like to invite you to our next From the Frontlines coming June 25th. We're going to be joined by our partner from Turkey, Petra Media, Sarah Wibberley, will be with us. So please mark your calendars for that. We will be on YouTube Live, and I think we'll be live here in our Southern California studio audience. So we'd love to invite you to join us June 25 for that. So thank you so much from all of us at Guidelines. Are we off? Nope, we're not off.